Welcome everyone to Comics from the Multiverse, episode 251. I am Peter, and joining me as always is Matt.
Hey, what's up?
Connor is not here, unfortunately. His work schedule did not allow. Matt and Connor get to swap places though, because Matt's anniversary weekend's next week, so it'll be Connor on the show with me next week, and then hopefully everyone the week after.
Yeah, remember we have to talk about that. I have a thing. We talked about it like a couple weeks ago.
Potentially everyone the week after.
Yes.
We'll see. But regardless, we're here. DC Comics Podcast. We got this week's books to talk about. We have Detective Comics 1035, Action Comics 1030, Robin issue 1, Teen Titans Academy issue 2, and Batman Superman 17. So that's what's coming up on the show, aside from a little bit of news and the other usual tidbits. So there you go. That's what's coming up. Yeah, what's weird is that me and Connor, because his schedule's actually weird again next week, we're recording the show. And know what? This does not mean it's going out early. Let me make this clear before I say this on air. But we're actually recording the show on Thursday next week, which is weird. So it does mean that patrons will get it at an earlier time on the Saturday, but you're not getting it like days and days early. We have consistency to keep. Can't raise expectations to Thursday to Friday levels.
Yeah. No.
It's nonsense.
Especially when we usually record on Saturday.
Yes.
Everyone
was so disappointed the week after if we give them a super early week once. Yeah. So, yes, keep that in mind. But so thanks to everyone. I will make a point of not spoiling the results because I realize that the top 50 that's out now on the audio feeds on the YouTube channel as well. It's kind of a separate thing that maybe people have to find time to listen to rather than their usual weekly routine. So I will just say thank you for everyone for voting, and we had fun with the show. People seem to have enjoyed it, so we shall not even hint at who won anything, just to
not saying anything.
Give you some time to go and enjoy it without spoilers. But cool. All right. Well, I think we can start also making fun of Connor, I suppose, because he's not here. But we will start with the new favorite segment, which is ComiXology Top 10, which has been ruined this week somewhat because apparently there's a Star Wars sale on, because the top 10 is almost entirely Star Wars trades, which is upsetting. In fact, yes.
Chris is foiled again.
Number 1 through 8 are all Star Wars collections that are on sale. Number 9 is Detective Comics 1035. So DC, in terms of new single issues, DC is at the top of the chart. Okay. So that's neat. Of course, I'm going to click on the next thing and find out what the rest of these bloody things are. But yeah, so that's number 9. Critical Role comic book is at number 10. So
did not know they had a comic, but good for them.
Yeah, and that's another Star Wars book, and then New Mutants issue 17 is the next single issue, and then there's a bunch more. All those Star Wars omnibus books, the old Dark Horse ones that Marvel have reprinted, I think they are. They're taking up tons of room. Next single issue is DC, is Action Comics, and let me just work out what that is. That's in the low 20s, something like that. But again, in terms of single issues, it's third.
Right.
Oh, sorry, no, fourth, because it was a critical one. So it's fourth in terms of new single issues. So super awkward. Robin's just a few slots behind, so that's nice. Batman Superman's not too much beyond that. So I will say the DC single issues are actually, because the only other Marvel single issue that I've passed over so far is Cable. So there's not a lot of Marvel single issues beating the DC books this week, as at least as of right now on the UK ComiXology. But like I say, this is hard to read this week because, man, there's so many of these Star Wars omnibuses. Like, I'm on page 2 and there's still like a whole wall of them just there. It'd be nice if I could filter out collections and just have single issues. That'd be a really neat feature of ComiXology. But fair enough. People, I guess this is the 4th of May sale they've got on for the week.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yes. So there you go. Fair enough. Oh, actually, I tell one slight lie. One of these Star Wars books in that top 8 was a single issue. Mixed in between all the trades, Darth Vader issue 11 is in there. So technically, Marvel did get the top spot. In my defense, I just saw a wall of Star Wars. But hey, not too bad.
Which none of those reprints come up on League of Comic Geeks because I'm clicking around to see. So must just be a digital thing.
Yeah, it's just a sale. It's just they're all on sale, so they've all skyrocketed to the top of the chart. I mean,
I
usually,
don't know if they were doing special releases or you know what I mean.
I doubt it. It's probably just a typical sale. I think what's surprising about it, though, I mean, one, they look very well discounted. Those omnibuses are £1.59, so that's $2 per omnibus.
Right.
That's actually pretty good. Normally, we see the effect of the sales a little bit in the top 10, top 20, but this is particularly notable. So I guess this is just proof that Star Wars still sells a shit ton whenever they put anything on sale.
Yep.
Because people have poor taste.
I mean, you could say that, or they just have different taste.
It's poor. It's definitely poor. Matt, if they don't like the same things as me, it's poor, okay? That's science. It's indisputable.
Sure.
If X does not equal Y, then Y is wrong.
But then Y equals X.
Why? Just cause. Okay.
Yeah.
So...
I'm not good at math.
I'm not agree either really. I think the logic of it I enjoy, but the having to actually think on my feet quickly, nah, not so much.
Yep.
Let's leave it there. In terms of news, there's not a lot of specific comic book stuff, but there was a bunch of stuff that I talked to Connor about on the regular news yesterday, and I think it is worth mentioning that DC Fandom is coming back. They've announced this way in advance. This is coming on the 16th of October, but this did actually have a lot of big announcements last year. There was multiple new movie trailers for stuff that we hadn't seen any footage from. They revealed multiple games that are going to be big deals, multiple TV announcements. So, and I mentioned this yesterday, but the fact that DC have 4 movies currently scheduled to come out in 2022 means that in October of this year, they're probably going to have a lot of trailers and stuff that they can reveal.
Yeah.
So, so this is them continuing this format. I mean, maybe this event will actually have an audience at some point, but at least this year, I assume it's still probably going to be all digital. But there was a surprising amount of news last year. I would call last year's, because I was skeptical going in, I would call last year's an unqualified success. In terms of just people talking about everything, the buzz that was generated, there was conversation.
Is that the one where they debuted the Suicide Squad game footage?
That, the Batman trailer, the first Suicide Squad trailer. Yeah. They revealed the Arkham game, I think, Arkham Knights. I think that was the same event. So, there was a lot there. So, and I mean, if they only do this once a year, and given that they keep making more movies, shows, and games, there's actually a good chance of them having enough every year to make it worthwhile. So, that's cool. Other than that, there's the terrible news that the Green Lantern TV show, one of the lead characters is going to be Guy Gardner.
You say terrible, and I say great.
More interestingly, though, because buried within that news, there was a description for the show, which mentioned that the other timeline that we're going to be following is in the 1940s with Alan Scott, and that he's an FBI agent who's secretly gay. And I was like, wait, Alan Scott's going to co-lead the first Green Lantern TV show? That's just kind of amazing.
Yeah. And they're going to have an original character for the show, which is nice. I don't know which timeline she's going to show up in, if it's the Guy Gardner, but apparently the Guy Gardner stuff is going to take place in the 80s, so it makes me wonder if we're going to be getting lanterns through the eras, right?
I wonder if the new character, I don't know if they specified she will be in one of theirs, or is she going to be present day? Is that going to be...
Maybe. I don't know. But that opens the door, because I saw a lot of people complaining about this, that because the headline was, they tap an actor to play Guy Gardner, and a lot of people got upset because a lot of people don't like Guy Gardner, but they're like, oh, it's another, out of all the lanterns to pick, this is the one they go with. And I was like, wait, it's the Green Lantern Corps. That just because he's listed as the quote lead doesn't mean that they're not going to have the other ones there. I don't know. We've had Jon Stewart on the cartoons, right? We've had Hal in a really terrible movie.
It was Kyle's time to shine, is what you're saying. I agree.
Kyle could show up. I mean, there's all sorts of stuff that could happen. right? We could get Jessica Cruz and Simon Baz in a present day storyline, or even Joe from Far Sector, you know, like, and then just think about it. Maybe we'll see a Hal Jordan in the '60s at one point.
Yeah, they might.
Like,
I mean, because obviously, Guy is tied to the era that he was introduced in,
mm-hmm,
more or less. Alan, of
right,
course, is tied to his era. So it could be interesting if they continue that trend with other lanterns. Now, if there's disappointment, I mean, I kind of get it a little bit. Like if you have multiple Green Lanterns that you love, and the
mm-hmm,
one that you don't like is Guy, and now he's the first one they're focusing on, it's a little
right,
disheartening. Like I get it.
yeah. No, and again, I understand it, but too, like it's you read the story. Most of the people I saw complaining didn't read because they weren't talking about Alan Scott.
Yeah, the Alan Scott
know?
stuff is way more interesting
That's
to me.
yeah, and that like I feel like that should have kind of led not the Guy Gardner stuff. I mean, just the fact that Alan Scott's going to be a TV character and he's set in the '40s, and then you add that new layer that he's going to be. I mean, it didn't say he was openly gay in the '40s, so they're going to add that wrinkle too. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so like, yeah, no, that's all good. It's all exciting news for Green Lantern, as far as I'm concerned.
I just hope it's good because I mean it could still
Yeah.
suck. Regardless of
Yeah.
concepts, it could still just be shit because it's not. The rating is subpar or whatever.
Right.
I will say the actor they got, he's got a very punchable face, which I think
Yes.
fits Guy Gardner. So fair play.
According to a friend, he was in Disney Channel original movie Halloween Town High. So, I mean, sure.
I'll take your word for it.
That's his most notable. That's his most notable role thus far.
Is this friend 12 years old, Matt? Because it feels like...
no, this friend is Alden, so it should come as no surprise.
Of course he would know. He would know about Halloween Town High.
Yeah.
I say that as if I had even knew that name before this conversation.
He did get a little upset with me when he said that, at the end of Rise of Skywalker, he wanted Dio, the new little droid, to be with Rey because, their journeys are so similar. And I was like, oh no, he's there. What do you think she made her new lightsaber out of? And he was not a fan of that comment. So...
Fan of Halloween Town High in Star Wars. What a weird specimen that boy is.
No, I didn't say he was a fan of it. He just said that's where he recognized him from.
It's totally in my head. He's got posters up in his room. He's got a cardboard stand up of the various characters.
So my wife had, she grew up with those movies, and so we'd watched. I'd never seen the first Halloween Town, so we watched it this past October, and I don't get it. It's definitely not 4B.
I feel like it only works for adults if they grew up with it. I feel like anyone who tries to watch it. I mean, I've not seen it, but given this the original movie that was aimed at a family audience, I feel like anyone who tries to watch it as an adult now is probably going. Because there's definitely movies I love from my childhood that I don't think I would like if I watched them for the first time.
Oh, for sure. I mean, that's why I don't go back and revisit Smallville. Like, I'm kind of afraid, because it's definitely not good.
No, see, that's a little bit different because that's one where the nostalgia won't mask its problems. You will hate it if you watch it again because it's terrible.
Yeah. But it's in the same thing. Or what's another one? Well, no, because I watch the Mighty Ducks movies on a yearly basis, and I understand that they're not traditionally good, but they're still fun kids movies,
Oh yeah, but I think that's a good example of like if they only came out now, you probably wouldn't feel the same attachment or excitement about them. You may not. They may not be terrible by any means, but I don't think I would. I think the reason why I enjoy those still and I enjoy the show even is because I saw them at an age where it really sort of ingrained in my head and it created a sort of taste in me for it, and now that's sort of just a part of my makeup, my core programming, as it were.
Yeah. I mean, you also saw Commando at too young of an age, so
Commando's great.
Yeah, you're a little bit different. So I just pulled up. His name's Finn Wittrock, and
Wittrock.
Yeah, he has a lot. Yeah, he was in The Big Short, so I mean, in La La Land, so that's 2 bit parts in 2 prestige movies. But he's mainly been on TV. He's been a lot on the American Horror Story stuff. So that's kind of where he's been hanging out. So he's gonna have American Horror Story this newest season, and then Green Lantern are his next two projects. So, yeah.
All right.
But you're right, punchable face.
Punchable face, yes.
Is needed in One Guy Gardner.
Yes, I appreciated the description. The final thing it said was somehow he's likable after they described what he was like.
Well, and it definitely gave me John Walker vibes from after watching Falcon and Winter Soldier, because I had read something from one of the creatives on that show going like, "Oh, we really wanted you to hate John Walker and then turn around to liking him." I was like, "Well, you guys failed," because those 6 issues, we're on the comic show. Those 6 episodes did not endear John Walker to me whatsoever. So let's hopefully guys not like that, right? Like, yeah, give me the 4 Corpsmen guy.
All right, but there you go. That's basically the news. I'll just mention Stargirl season 2 is coming in August. That's when that's premiering, and also they cast Vincent Kartheiser from Angel, the spin-off of the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer, as Scarecrow, Jonathan Crane, for Titans season 3. So just throw that in there too.
Think he's gonna ruin that season like he ruined Angel?
Oh, that's
It's not Vinny's fault. That story just went real bad.
I do not dislike Connor on Angel, and that's the character Connor, not.
That's a hard sentence for you to say. I not dislike Connor. The Connors on this show you're not big fans of.
I haven't said anything bad about Connor Hawk yet.
No, but Connor Kent. He likes to go who, and we all know what happens with Conroe.
Yes, all CR21. So that's the thing, and they also put out the first photo of the actress who's playing Naomi. They that cover from one of the issues of her book where she's putting up the photos with the red webbing around her. Mm-hmm. It's basically the murder board string, but it's instead of being on a board, it's like just around like her.
It's around her. Where you get the thing that she's piecing together a mystery.
Yeah. So they recreated that photo with the actor. So it's neat that they're actually trying to take some of that imagery from the book. So yeah, so that's the thing that's definitely happening now. We got cast and everything for Naomi. Mm-hmm. So cool. But that other one, the one that was supposed to spin out of Black Lightning, and I can't. What's the name of the character? I've forgotten it now.
Are you talking about Thunder?
No.
No?
There was the boyfriend of the daughter who got powers, and he does. Is it Painkiller? No, not Painkiller. Is it? Oh god, I forgot his name. Anyway, that was supposed to be a spin-off, and then it got canned. It got removed. So.
Well, I'm gonna find out who this character is next. Now I got to know.
Sure.
as it loads, let's see, casting characters. Yeah, Painkiller.
Painkiller. I was right.
Jordan Calloway. His real name is Khalil Payne. I love comics sometimes.
Khalil Payne.
And I'm gonna become Painkiller. It's in the name. I didn't know they brought Grace Choi into the.
Yeah.
Watch Black Lightning.
She was there. Yeah.
I love those characters. Yeah, from Outsiders.
No, more importantly, Matt, do you know who was in an episode or two? Cold Snap was in an episode or two of Black Lightning.
This explains a lot. Oh, they're short seasons. I could watch this. I like when they're 13 episodes because it makes for a quick watch.
Honestly, the first 2 seasons I watched, not always knocking it out of the park, the general standard was better than most of the CW stuff.
Gotcha.
So.
Oh no, I don't like this. That Grace Troy's a shapeshifter. That's not comics canon. She's a back doll Amazon. All
right.
Oh boy,
well,
maybe I don't need to watch this now. But Khalil Payne, that's enough. There's Painkiller.
Shall we talk about comics? Shall we?
Yeah, we should. If I can refocus after the Painkiller news.
It wasn't even used this week. I just mentioned it because.
Yeah, I know, but I didn't realize that was like a whole. Do you know what his powers are in the comics?
And I mean, I know that in the show he like shoots like needles or something from his.
As a metahuman, Painkiller exhibits superhuman strength and can induce an I can't do this word. Anesthetic on any part of the human body.
Yes.
Still the senses of his victims. He's a skilled fighter and has knives on the end of his dreadlocks, which he uses as additional weapons.
Oh, he never got. Well, at least from what I saw, he never got knives on dreadlocks. But he did shoot like needles from his arm. They had like wrist gauntlets that sort of like fired them for him, and that did have the anesthesia, the stuff. So they're like, it wasn't a complete nonsense of an adaptation.
No, is he a good guy or a bad guy?
He works for the bad guy, but he's kind of in that shady sort of grey area where he might become good. And I presume that his spin-off, he would have been turned to full good, if not at least anti-hero.
Kind of deal.
Yeah. It's sort of a tragic story that kind of can turn around later on.
You have Cold Snap, and now I have Painkiller. So
sounds like we've both got medical problems.
It does.
Alright, let's talk about comic books. Detective Comics 1035, Mariko Tamaki and Dan Mora on the art. On the main story, anyway. And this is continuing. You remember we had the murder of one of the rich wives in the fancy neighborhood with the guy who works for the mayor. I want to say Nick. Remember right? Being the culprit. So this issue goes full on detective though, like properly. Like this whole thing is Bruce narrating as he's talking about how the police are reacting to this, how the mayor's reacting to this, how he's like searching for the victim, which leads to a fantastic scene I thought where he finds the body in the sewer, and it's too late. She's already dead, and that's kind of it's what he said earlier on. He's like, someone disappears in Gotham, the chances are they're not coming home.
Yeah, it's never good. No, just this whole scene was giving me like detective movie vibes.
Yeah.
Like when they find the body, but it's too grotesque to show, so you only get like a little snippet, and you could tell from Bruce's body language, like it's not good.
Yeah, because it's very stern. Because Bruce has his narration voice is very cold and very matter of fact. But when he gets to finding the body, he says something along the lines of, I'm not on the page, but I'm so sorry. It becomes more personal. It affects him. So now all this stuff was great, and him sort of like tracking it to the sewer system, going around with his flashlight, all that.
Mora's really good with action. Because this whole sequence when the police show up, it's almost as if someone set it up to make it look like Batman's responsible. Right, because the police just find him standing over a dead body. Yeah, and they're already with Nakano's anti-mask, whole thing.
It is happenstance, I think, but it is like this. It plays into the whole anti-vigilante sentiment that's going on quite well. But I love that Batman points out that like it would normally take like another week for the police to even find this. Like, I mean, it's not super hard to find, but they're clearly pulling out all the stops and treating this as a big deal because her father is one of the richest men in Gotham, and he's like demanding action. So the mayor's like doing everything he can for him and putting everyone on this. But you're right, yeah, we get this action sequence where they're chasing Batman through the sewer. Yep. And there's a great moment where a bullet that the police fire ricochets and hits one of the cops in the shoulder. And in the next page, we hear the conversation as someone's explaining to the mayor, what went down. Oh, the Batman got away, blah blah. But it mentions that one of the officers got injured in a chase, and the mayor says, "By Batman." And the guy just says, "That is the report, sir." And we just saw their own bullet ricochet and hit themselves. So,
right, this is turning Batman into a public menace again. Because for a long time, it was Batman was working with the police, so them setting this up that it's antagonistic again, I think is a nice change up. Because we go through these cycles where when Gordon's in charge, they're friendly to Batman, but even in Gotham Central, you got the vibe that not all of the cops are comfortable with that, but they just do it because they trust Gordon. And then there's other cycles where he's an enemy of the police, and they're trying to catch him as much as they're trying to catch the Joker and stuff. And I feel this rides that line really well, because we know that Montoya, right? She's kind of in charge right now. But
Yeah,
she's just gonna
she's
try
very
to
reluctant.
follow.
Yeah, she's very reluctant with the
Yeah,
Nakano's orders, but she is the one who's commissioner. Yeah.
right. So, with that being in play, I feel like it'll be a riding that line because I mean she knows Batman's motivation. She knows he doesn't shoot at cops, you know. So
Yeah.
we'll see how this all plays out.
Yeah, so there's a big funeral takes place, and her father, doesn't give a eulogy. He's like demanding justice, and he's angry. He's very. It's like Craven the Hunter put on like a fancy coat. Like that's really the vibe that I get from him. I love that Penguin's in the audience as well. Like, everyone's shown up to this funeral. That doesn't have a body because of forensics still being done. Although Batman notes very quickly in the next couple of pages that a rushed order to like fill up that old sewer system, at least that section of it, with concrete was put through, and no one's worked the crime scene. So all the evidence, someone has cared about putting this. I mean, now it could just be the culprit. Like, I don't know if he has the power to put that order in himself, working at the mayor's office. So maybe there'll be more to that as we get more issues. But yeah. And the husband, because this was the husband who, he's like the one who has the startups every year, and was kind of a kept husband. He's got a gun. He's out wandering. Batman confronts him and disarms him, and throws him into the. He doesn't personally throw him into the jail cell, but we find out that he left him off at the police station, so that he'd be safe, because there's very few places that are safe. The murderer, who we see, and I think that's one of the things I love about this story so far, is that cliffhanger where we saw him with blood all over his hands. It felt very dark, but comics have this way of like flipping things when you come to the next issue, where it's not quite as bad as it seemed. But this issue is like, no, it's exactly as bad, if not worse, than you thought. That cliffhanger implied. There's no get out clause of it, I suppose, is what I'm saying. But he's high tense. He's trying to take his pills. Mayor's sending him home. All this stuff. We see a moment where he like buckles, and I guess we get like a visualization of what it's like in his head as he collapses.
Yeah, it's a lot of like spore kind of stuff. Like fungal vibes, which tends to make me think of one of the more, plant-based villains. But we know what's going on with Ivy in over in Catwoman, so that kind of rules her out. But unless it's someone new, or
it does feel like we're building to a reveal of like who the villain who is responsible for what's going on is. I mean, don't get me wrong, this guy is still a murderer, but there's definitely
something more going on.
Yeah, there's definitely something else to it though, where he's infected with something, and then obviously the ending adds a lot to it. Where there's something kind of supernatural or science fiction-y going on here now, but I love how it plays out in this issue though, and the art style on this page where we see inside his head, it does a good job of being completely different in style to everything else. Every other page does not look like this. There's a consistent style throughout the whole thing. There's no, for the most part, there's no wacky angles on the the panels or anything like that. The action has a little bit of it, of course, but it's very boxy in a very consistent way, and the pacing's really good in the art. But that one page where we see inside his head when he collapses and he's having this like migraine, it's like no, now we're going kind of fantastical and otherworldly because we're inside his head. I don't know, it's just good at being distinct.
There's nothing like it in the rest of the issue. Even
the colors.
Even when it because even when it gets cartoony with her dad, he looks like this big hulking guy.
Yeah.
And like to show emphasis, some of his words are colored red and stuff. It's still pretty in line with the rest of the book. And then you get to this page and you get, wonky angles on some of the stuff and that red and green, which that's what made me think of like the, back in the Snyder Swamp Thing and Lemire Animal Man, we had the red and the green fighting, it was giving me vibes of that because you'd get a lot of these pages. Who did the art in Swamp Thing at the beginning?
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
Testing my memory here.
They would do angles and stuff like this. It's on the tip of my tongue, but I can't.
Yeah. So we get an example. It's funny because the backup's Huntress, so I guess this is a neat way to just establish it around. But Huntress saves someone who's on her phone talking to her mum about, well, I know it's not safe to be out at night, but I kind of need to go do stuff. And Huntress sort of swoops in and saves her. So there's one page setting that up. So I don't know if that means Huntress is going to pop up a bit more prominently in the main story later on, and this is just established for that. But as Batman's coming home, as Bruce is coming home, his narration's interrupted. He says something about the whole thing feels strange, but he kind of pauses in the middle when he notices something, and we see like a figure over by the streetlight in silhouette. And the final page, seemingly, is the murdered woman walking like a zombie towards him. And,
yeah,
you know, like even just the face, the way her mouth is, it's very classic traditional zombie. And what seems to be a moan coming from her is like, I mean, part of me thinks she's trying to say a specific word, but there's nothing I can think of. But...
So yeah. So looking back at the pages and stuff, I'm wondering if we're getting. So there's the guy that works for the mayor named Hugh.
Yeah.
And the way that he's drawn, I don't know. He's always seems to be in the focus. With Nakano.
And it's worth mentioning the relationship between those three specifically.
Yeah.
Is that the mayor's constantly yelling at Murder Man, but
at
Neil, yeah. Oh, I said Nick earlier. It's Neil. That was close. Anyway, but he seems to favor Hugh, where Hugh's kind of like, oh, you're always a lifesaver, Hugh. You do the press releases. You don't suggest the stupid ideas. I mean, if Hugh turns out to be the real villain, who's like making his colleague going crazy to the point where he's murdered someone, I mean, that could be a potential motivation.
Yeah, I'm just looking at him because he's the one that goes to Neil, right? And I'm just wondering too, because he has bugs on his computer, right? And this is a bit of a jump, but back in one of the Justice League Darks, I can't remember if it was Tynan or Ram, but there was this one where this fungus had gotten into some of the people, and it's based off of a real life one that makes it gets involved into ants, and it basically takes control of them, makes them go to the highest point and jump off, and then that's how it helps spread the fungus. And I feel like the fact like it's bringing this lady back, right? She's like a zombie type creature. I don't know. I feel like that's kind of his thing. It's like this is how he's spreading it through like this death and mayhem kind of deal. But there's just something not right going through this the second time now that I didn't notice him until we were talking about it. Like kind of always being in the frame with the mayor.
Like he's always in his ear. He's kind of secretly running the show a little bit by just
kind of along those lines. Almost like he's it's that fungus that takes control of the ant and makes them do things.
I mean, it's made a point of like creating a name for this character and having him be around in the scenes in both issues. So it's very intentional. He's supposed to be a named character for a reason. Yeah. So you could be onto something there. I mean, I don't know anything about this villain from Justice League Dark, admittedly, but
well, it wasn't so much a villain; it was a concept because all of them were out of balance. All of the red and the green and the gray and all of the stuff, and it started affecting people, and it was making them go up to the highest point and jump off of things. And so they had to contact Animal Man, and through shenanigans, get into there and talk them down. It was really good, but I can't remember if it was Tynan or Ram V because that was where it was jumping kind of back and forth. Like Tynan was doing other things, and Ram V was, writing based off of plots and all that other stuff. It
would definitely be interesting if Tamaki's first story in Detective takes from something that was set up in Justice League Dark. I'm not expecting it to. I do think it's a bit of a reach, but
I don't think it's that exactly. Just it reminded me of that, just because with the way that was, with how they took over and the people were like zombies, with whatever this green and red page is supposed to represent, right? Because to me it looks like spores of some kind. So that's all. Like I don't think it'll tie back into any of that type of stuff. But it's similar enough that it made my brain, especially with he had an ant sticker on his computer, and it more kind of, not that he draws attention to it, right? But you look at the top of that page, and it's very, it draws your eye to it, right? When he's talking about the headache, and he's sitting right next to Neil and stuff. So, but I didn't notice that. I just thought, I wanted to point out, I didn't notice that the first time I read it through. This is one I didn't have time to go back and revisit. So
seeing that. It's an important detail because unlike, say, other mediums, like the
Mhm.
choice had to be made to put that there. That is not an accident that there's
Right.
an ant
Right.
sticker or whatever on his laptop. So
Right.
yeah, no, I mean I think that's a good thing to catch. This could just be a completely new character with a new,
Yeah.
villainy. If even as this guy, this might be a hint to something
Right.
else rather than
This
who's
could
behind
this
everything.
could be a red herring.
Yeah.
That's put there to throw us off completely. But yeah, I was not expecting zombies
No,
at the end of
I think
Batman.
what's
Sure.
impressive is that if you told me before I read this that it's going to end with the murdered, like the woman's going to turn to be killed and she's going to come back at the end as a zombie, I'd have probably rolled my eyes and thought, that sounds a bit lame. But actually reading the issue, I think the way it builds up to finding the body is all so well done. The actual sort of the almost David Fincher-esque kind of looking for the body feels really great. The art's gorgeous.
Yeah.
And then the actual ending, though, because it's treated like a proper horror movie where you get the silhouette, it's very Exorcist almost, the visual, and then the actual full-on zombie sort of horror comic of that last page of her coming towards him, with the just the red behind him and the scratchy lines. It even says next what died didn't stay dead. Like I was like, oh, this is getting pulpy horror, and I don't know if I was expected to go in that direction, but I like it. So I'm not complaining. So it did a good job of being enjoyable for what it was, but then turning it into something else and making me go, oh, that's an interesting direction. Let's see what they go with this. So
yeah, totally. Really enjoying Detective. Again, Mora's art is just, it really is up there. Every month when this comes out, it's just, I look forward to it. And the action scenes particular in this one, I mean, in the sewer were really good.
I'm so used to one of Detective or Batman being a good book and the other one being fairly skippable, and it's actually it feels really oddly great that both are firing really well right now, and they're both so different, but they're both doing really well at what they're doing. So that's really good. And it's nice that Superman's also kind of in the same situation right now, but but we'll So that's the main story. What you given the book?
I'm giving this one for the main story an 8.5.
Yeah, I think I'm on the same page, 8.5. So, but there's a backup, which I did read. It is Tamaki again writing, this time with Clayton Henry on art. Therefore, even I thought Huntress having long hair
would help the long head problem.
Would help the head problem. That first panel, her head looks so weird. Like, why can't he draw heads properly? Well, why are these heads so weird looking?
If you just do the rough guesstimate where you take your fingers and measure the head and then put it over her torso.
Yes.
Her head is about 3/4 of her torso, which are normal human proportions. I just want to point out.
Yeah. I mean, it's not as bad in every panel, but that first one, it did not start off on a good impression. I'll just say that.
He's really good when he draws from angles. Head, like, straight on, it always gets a little what's the word I'm looking for? We were looking at it from I can't talk today. It's not disoriented. It's something along those lines. But yeah, it kind of throws you off.
Yeah, distorted? Is that what you're trying to say?
There you go. Thank you. Jeez. Distorted. There we go.
Detective.
Got it. Teamwork makes the dream work.
So this story, we start off with a sort of tease of what's to come, where Huntress is talking about how she doesn't really have any friends. She's never really had friends in the traditional sense, and there's a cat next to her. And then it cuts back to 3 months ago, and it's basically a story of how she helped someone who was being mugged. And the woman being mugged, named Mary, she's very opinionated and won't give up her phone to the mugger. But then she's very opinionated in everything else. She talks back when Huntress tries to tell her what to do to be safe. And it becomes this trend. The story is that Huntress kind of keeps coming back and meeting her again and again. She saves her cat at one point, and she talks about how Mary would just talk about inane subjects that were really kind of annoying and boring, but she kept coming back because she talked to her. And then one day she just didn't show up, and she goes back to where she lives, and Mary's outside her apartment with bruises, and she's been abused inside. And it points out that Huntress basically didn't know what to say. And it became clear the reason why she was always outside is because she preferred to try and stay away from where she lived. This was her feeling more safe outside than inside. So she even walks a cat with a leash as a way to get away. And then she stops showing up at all, and Huntress becomes concerned. And eventually sees her cat with some blood on its tail, and it becomes clear that her boyfriend or husband, I don't know if they specified which, but has killed her. She finds the body, finds the phone. I thought that was a really nice symbolic part of storytelling. Is that this all started over her not giving up her phone, and she finds her dead body and her phone's in her hand, and she uses this to sort of say, okay, she died. That was almost the day she came to see her after the last time she spoke to her, where she died. So the end of this first part of the story is that she's given the cat a place to stay. She's given the cat her couch, which is purple because of course it is, because we have to color match with our hero.
Right.
But it's her vowing to find out who's responsible and look for a killer. I thought it was a solid backup. I think Clayton Henry's weird heads is probably the biggest problem I have with the story.
Yeah, but as from different angles. So like the one page where it's about halfway through where Mary talks about she's having a panic attack. Everything on that page looks pretty well in proportion. Even where we're looking straight on at Helena. It's well, so I don't know what's up with his style, right? Like but I mean the rest of it's pretty okay. But yeah, I mean it's Clayton Henry art. It's gonna be decent. Yeah. So, but I do like the vibe of this Huntress because it does she is a bit more awkward than normal, which I like Huntress as a character, but sometimes it's hard to define her because she sometimes just comes off as female Batman, right? Where she's kind of tough.
Female Jason Todd may be a better.
So sometimes, but like, whereas I would never call like Batwoman like Kate. She's not female Batman, right? She's not that brooding, type. Where I feel like Helena really, she gets that brooding, leave me alone vibe more. And here it comes off more awkward, which I know you're not going to want to hear this, but like in her version from Birds of Prey, the Harley Quinn.
I mean, I would necessarily dislike that as a character trait. I had no problem because I mean this gave her something where she actually grew attached to someone, and it kind of further solidified why she doesn't have friends because they all seem to end up getting hurt or killed. Yeah. And it's so we have this revenge story, but there's enough of a heart here. I think the realization that she's always outside because she's scared to go home, I think was a good story development, and it was one where. As soon as it wasn't about punching someone, Huntress didn't know what to do. Huntress didn't know, okay, she could have went inside and punched the guy, sure, but she didn't know what advice to give, because what she should have said is you shouldn't be staying there, you should move on, you should get away, you should, whatever advice you're supposed to give in that situation, and she wasn't able to. And she feels guilty about that. I think I like the idea that the guilt that Huntress has in this story is not that she didn't make it in time to like punch someone in the face or jump off a building. It wasn't that she couldn't be good enough in an action scene. It's actually a simple human interaction that she choked on, that many of us do. It makes it far more relatable in so many ways.
It's like Gotham, reminding her it's Gotham, so you can do what you want, but sometimes you can't escape it. So, and that's tragic. And, the fact that the cat leads her there too, because the whole cat's the whole reason that she meets this lady, well, not meets her, but befriends her.
Befriends, yeah. So, that's solid backup. I was happy to read it. And I think because Huntress is teased in the main story, it maybe tells me as well, okay, so Huntress is going to show up later in the main arc. And this backup is a nice kind of like Tamaki saying, hey, I'm going to do a little Huntress story to sort of set up who my Huntress is and give her some depth. I think that's a fine idea. I would love if the backups in the books were written by the same writer, but they were maybe like, a side material to the main story. Yeah.
They feel like smaller pieces of, so this, not necessarily the Mary story, but her whole development here with not getting close to people and whatnot might come into play.
Little pieces of the mythology in the world around whatever the main book is. So, in Batman, for example, Tynion could do like a, like maybe a little Harley mini story or something. Yeah.
Right. Well, that's what he's doing with Ghostmaker right now.
True. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, that's a good point. He's about to start doing exactly that. So yeah. Honestly, solid backup. Are we giving the backup story?
I'm gonna give it a 7.5. I mean, because it is good, but some of the Clayton Henry stuff does stick out.
Yeah,
But yeah,
I'm giving it a 7. I think the story's solid, but those Clayton Henry heads are enough to
Mm,
give it a bit of a hit. Is my argument. So, there you go. All right. Action Comics 1030. Philip K. Johnson and Daniel Sempere on the main story. And I only
mhm.
read the main story in this one because I'm not reading the
As did I, and
the
I feel like
Midnighter.
I need to read the Midnighter stuff because I feel like come come July when Taylor takes over Superman, and I feel like Midnighter's really gonna have a lot more to do in the War World stuff.
Mm.
But man, I got to that and I was kind of relieved I didn't have to read it, you know. Um, but yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know.
I
Midnighter's just
just
a character I can't get into. I feel like it's while he is not exactly bootleg Batman, I can't not help feel that way.
I think
You know?
I've not felt too much of the appeal of the character, but I think on top of that, I just I got to the page and the art wasn't screaming at me. I like this, so. But anyway, the main story, Action Comics. We're building to War World. We're getting War World Rising. We start with the whole, the evil Mongol on his throne, and he's all of his hench people, swearing allegiance and all the rest of it. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and we have this mysterious character in a hood. And I love the art in this section, by the way. All the little deep reds that because the character in the hood comes in and says, "I have a gift for Mongol," and empties his bag, and it's all in silhouette with just this stark red light behind it, but it's just heads, right? It's just all these decapitated heads hitting the floor,
Mm-hmm.
and then says, "This is the head of all your sons." And the hench people are like, "Oh, we'll kill you on behalf of Mongol. Let us kill this." And Mongol says, "No, we've established that Mongol killed previous
Mm-hmm.
Mongol, his father, to become current Mongol,
Right?
and that's the line." And this mysterious stranger, whoever they are, have just made
Mm-hmm.
sure that at least for the time being, there are no young Mongols to kill him. So he's actually quite pleased by this, as pleased as
Yeah.
Mongol
So
can
he
be.
went. So and I just look at all of the other people, and I feel like they're all Mongols as well. So I feel like Mongol is just like whatever species he is. I feel like they've retroactively gone back,
Mm,
and man, I don't know because I know they're not clones, but they feel like clones. Because just look at them, like the one that yells "traitor"
yes.
looks like a Mongol with a mohawk and eye patch.
I love the one that's had his legs cut off, so he's kind of crawling
Yeah,
around with a stick.
yeah,
There's a visual to that.
yeah,
Uh,
and he's like an old, like hardened one, like um what was he called? Because he calls him. There's a name in here. I can't find it right now. Oh, Chadel,
there you go.
right? So yeah. But yeah, so this person who's giving me time trapper vibes, just with the robe, who's a Legion villain that in Legion of Three Worlds turns out to be Superboy Prime, which I don't think that's the direction they're going here, right? But the Stark hooded figure, it's definitely someone that we're gonna recognize when the hood comes off. It's just trying to figure
Oh, for
out who,
sure. Yeah.
because they wouldn't. I don't think Johnson would keep him in Shadow or them in Shadow. And whoever they are they have a vested interest in making Warworld alive again. So
Oh,
I'm
I know
gonna go
that.
out on
It
it,
doesn't even matter if
right?
it's Johnson. Anyway, like, there's no story ever that will treat this
Yeah,
mysterious character with this hood and shadow and not reveal their
right,
face without it being someone that we're going to recognize later.
right.
There's no
So
question. So
I'm gonna stick my flag into the ground and say this is Cyborg Superman.
that's who you're
This
going with,
is
Cyborg
that's
Superman.
who I'm going with because if back at Death of Superman, after that when Mongol came and he basically had used Coast City to turn it into a new war world, and that's what led to Hal being influenced by Parallax, and then Mongol kind of becoming a Green Lantern villain for a minute, and was part of the trying to collect his own rings and whatnot. It plays well into that, and as sci-fi as Superman can be, Johnson's really giving me fantasy vibes, and I feel like Cyborg Superman would push back just enough against the fantasy to firmly re-put it into Superman.
I mean, I don't have a guess. I mean, I think your reasoning is solid enough. You're connecting it to the history of the characters.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a. I mean, I'm ready to be, amazed and impressed. I'm happy with whoever, and I love. This is what I love about this. So that obviously this says, he this mysterious stranger says, Warworld. There's more to it than you think it is, and one of the keys to mastering Warworld is far away, and that's the transition where we cut to Superman. And I think what I love about this is that all the deep reds and the blacks of all the Warworld stuff with Mongol, and when you transfer it to Superman, you've got this bright 2-page layout. It's all the whites and the blues. It's it's Superman flying through the sky. It's like completely different. The coloring just completely assaults you with a different vibe. It's like it's a horror comic, and then it becomes a Superman comic, and it's great. So, you have basically Batman and the Atom are testing Superman's powers. He's doing some like drone tests, and Batman's concerned because his powers are depleting, and he says it's consistent with radiation poisoning. And the Atom's kind of like, look, let's not jump to conclusions. This could still just be the normal like variation of solar energy. This is nothing to jump to the gun about. Now, obviously, the only reason why we're giving this any credence is because we've heard from, John, and we've heard, various hints in the last, issues that have set this up, that this is, like, Superman's actually, in theory, dying. Although, obviously, we don't expect it to last, but...
No. It does remind me of All-Star Superman, where he got too close to the sun and absorbed way too much, and so, of the radiation, because Bruce brings up, this is radiation kind of based, and they think it might be tied to the breach that him and John fought back. So, I'm getting vibes from that too. And Morrison had gone on saying that was based off of the 12 Labors of Hercules. And so I'm wondering if again, Johnson's pulling from different Superman mythos to tell his own unique story, and that here is a Superman that's supposed to be towards the end, but it's not what it's not what you think. Right, like there's a reason his powers are diminishing.
I suspect there'll be a bounce back at some point, but Superman's not actually that concerned. The only minor concern he has is that if this news were to leak to say Lex or Darkseid or whoever, they're going to try shit because they're hearing Superman's powers are diminishing. But he's actually still more powerful than everyone else. Like, he's not at the point where he's even not acting like Superman. But Batman does raise an interesting point. He says, look, John's powers are getting stronger. Soon he's going to be more powerful than you or Kara. And maybe you should talk to him about the League. The idea that, there should always be a Superman. And it's actually kind of heartwarming to hear Batman say that, just because of who Batman is.
Yeah, because Batman has to think about this stuff routinely because he's human. Like, that's almost why he has an army of Robins. It's to have a legacy after him, and the idea of Batman being a symbol, right? And that's what Superman is. So it means a lot coming from Bruce.
Yeah. For the record, I don't think Batman, like, when Batman took his first Robin, I don't think there was a plan or a reason for it. It was more just happenstance and...
Operation Human Shield is what it was. Come on. I read All-Star Batman and Robin.
Come on now. No, don't use that as the example. That demented old Frank Miller with all his nonsense.
You mean the Rorschach character, Frank Miller?
Yeah, that one. So we cut to John and Damian, who are still hanging out. Shane Connor's not here to bask in the John and Damian camaraderie.
I do love it, and they're both in their new costumes, which is nice. And just the idea that Damian's on the run, right, because of the stuff that he's done that we didn't read in Titans.
Yes.
More on that in Robin. But he still has time to meet with his best friend. And, like, that's just, like, the whole, everyone complaining about splitting up John and Damian and the aging up. This still feels like John and Damian Super Sons. Their dynamic has not changed.
Yeah, this is a core thing they'll keep coming back to, no matter how separate they are in their stories and their books. Like, the fact that we're going to have scenes like this where they do meet up and talk about what's going on, or like there's so much to do with these two being best friends throughout their life and all the different things they're going to end up getting up to. So Damien, being Damien, doesn't want to open up about his weird issues with his father right now, but John does open up, of course, and talks about how he's worried that, the stories are all kind of weird at this point where it sounds like Superman's going to leave. And I actually want to read these specifically because obviously some of the stuff that happens later in this issue does kind of incorporate some of this, and then other things kind of incorporate other parts of it. So it says one report said Dad got killed in the breach. Another one talked about a big alien armada attacking Atlantis. Now, not attacking Atlantis, but there is an armada that shows up later in the issue. That did not escape me. And then history professors had a theory that Cersei banished him to another dimension, and then that kind of sounds like some of that House of L stuff that we...
That is that House of L stuff, because that's what we found out with the one son. But see, what I like about this is that time in the future is not concrete. So the fact that there's so many of these...
Can I say the last one before you go into your theory here? So, and it says the last one is that he got poisoned or something, and right before he died, a ship of Kryptonians came from the stars and took him home, which again, technically the armada that comes at the end does have enslaved Kryptonians on it in this issue, but also... the ship of Kryptonians also kind of sounds kind of House of L-esque as well. So there's a lot of like parts of all these theories that sound like they kind of connect to things.
Yeah, for sure.
Your point. What was you saying?
But my point is like, so he's looking at this from the Legion's perspective, but as we know from comics is that time is not concrete, and especially in the future. So like the fact that there's so many different, like they don't even know. They just know something happened to Superman at this point. And then it just kind of falls off. And so I get John being worried about that, but the fact that there's so many, he doesn't know what to go on. So despite him thinking he knows, he doesn't know more than any of the rest of us do. So I do like that. It's that from what I understand of Doctor Who, that's the definition of timey-wimey, right? Like,
I guess.
Yeah, right? Like you can't time has ebbs and flows and it'll eventually right itself. Or, not right, but fix itself and whatnot. But I do like that, and that he's kind of at a loss because he thinks he has all the answers, but really he's just as lost as Superman is in all of this. But yeah, no, this I really love this moment between these two. And just them staring at the sunset wherever they are. I'm trying to see, because it doesn't actually say where they are, but it looks like it's somewhere. I don't want to generalize a location and be completely wrong.
Well, they're mentioned they're eating a Pajmati roll.
So that tells me maybe somewhere near India, based off of the word.
It looks certainly that sort of region of Asia for sure.
Yeah.
But
he says a Pajmati roll is from the future.
That's true.
Why am I looking that up? That's
he says he says this is like a Pajmati roll. Sorry, yes, that was the actual line of dialogue.
No, you're right, because I started googling it and it didn't come up, and I was like, wait, it's because it's not a real thing, dummy.
Maybe soon there'll be a DC wiki page for it, so there will be a result when you search it, but not right now.
Well, yeah, wherever they are, it seems Middle East, India kind of vibe, just based off the architecture. Maybe, I don't know. Either way, that sunset that they're looking at, where at the end they're in silhouette, and John's like, "You sure you don't want to talk about the stuff with your dad?" And Damien just sighs. He goes, "Because we can." Like that, man. That's the stuff that I missed with these two. But it's good that we don't get it all the time, because then you won't appreciate it.
Yeah, it feels special when it does. Yeah.
Yeah, it feels special right here, and it feels like Johnson has it down.
So then we cut to the place we don't quite understand right away. But it becomes clear that Lois is, and we see how she's doing this in a minute. Because I wasn't sure if they actually were shrinking down to go into the Kandor City bottle or what, but it's more of a projection thing. But Lois is in the library in Kandor, basically researching for a book she's writing.
Yep.
And she's not really that concerned when Superman shows up, and they embrace. She's not that. She's like, "Oh, Batman said you should talk to John about being a replacement." Whatever. Batman's probably grunting a lot, but she's like, "Hey, even death didn't kill you, so I'm not that worried." And she also says that if she actually did believe something bad was going to happen to him and that he could die, then she would never be okay again because he's constantly in situations. So this was a nice sort of, this was like just a nice bit of proof. If I don't know if we've had much Clark and Lois from Johnson yet, but this was a nice little just a couple of pages to show he gets it.
Well, yeah, and she's writing a book about Krypton, which I think is real cool. I like the idea of Lois, not so much because with how newspapers and stuff are now, it does feel true that she would have gotten fame as a Pulitzer Prize winning journalist that then transitioned to being a nonfiction writer, right? So the fact, like in the Rucka book, she was writing a book, right? And now here with Johnson, she's writing another book that seems about Krypton.
It's not her first book, is the point. Yes, this is now her second book she's writing. And
so I like that that's what they're doing here. But she basically talks about how the Kryptonian civilization was at a higher point than Earth is right now. And because of that, technically they were older, so that's why they seem more advanced. And their enlightenment, its industrial revolution, and its wars over fossil fuels and water, they were all behind. So instead of searching for resources or technology, it became a marriage of sciences that drove them. And that at the end of the day, they were all artists. And that's something new I've never thought about the Kryptonians. And that is kind of the marriage of art and technology and their social class system. Johnson just added a whole other, layer. Because she says here that Kryptonian artists didn't just practice their craft on framed canvases and murals. They applied it to every brick and stone, every thought and sound of movement. So yeah, it makes Krypton seem that much more unique because I think at this point we've seen a lot of Krypton, right?
I think it maybe I mean, not that all of Krypton, even what we see in this Kandor City, applies to this, but the whole idea of the idea that a crystal can just like build a fortress, right? The idea that that feels like an art project. It feels like someone thought about this and sculpted what the fortress would be, Jor-El presumably, and then the crystal was able to sort of make it out of the ice of the Arctic. It's interesting. But Kal-X wakes them up or brings them out of the thing and
projection.
Says, "Hey, there's vessels coming into orbit," and he's like, "Wait, plural?" And we get this full page spread of a giant warship with all the little fighter pilots essentially around it. And Superman goes to fight. He says, "Okay, get the League, get them on board, make sure they know what's going on." John shows up. He calls the other Kryptonians, but John's the first one to show up, and they go fighting. And the cliffhanger of the main story is that when he rips open into the ship, the person, or maybe even both people that he ends up seeing, are two Kryptonian people in chains, but she's got a huge sword and she's there to help fight Superman, presumably against her will, but very interesting. So yeah, he notices that the little fighter jets are firing on the bigger ship, which doesn't seem, because it looks like they're the escort, but it looks, he puts together that they're firing on the ship for a reason, and he says that he can't see through the ship's hull, but he can hear something, and it's this phrase that is in that he realizes is a prayer in a dead Kryptonian language. Yeah, actually,
not only are they Kryptonian, it's like old Krypton.
Yeah, it's just it was like a dead language even by the time Krypton died. I just said they're there to fight Superman. I think I might have misread that slightly. I think maybe what's happening, I think when I read this earlier today and I read that the ships were firing on the main ship, I kind of took it. I don't know how I took it, but now I'm reconsidering it. Your mic's going, by the way. Now I'm reconsidering it into, oh no, this is like because seemingly these ships were coming to Earth anyway because they want Superman, because that ties into the earlier stuff with Mongol.
The War World.
But is the reason why the other ships are firing on the main ship because these prisoners are escaping and they're like rioting?
That's what I took it as. They were firing on that ship because they were trying to get away, and that how I'm putting it together is that Mongol, if he thinks that Superman's the key to War World, if he knows where other Kryptonians are, that's the way to get Superman, right?
Yeah. Well, the question I have is, were they still, because given that the opening scene that sets up the idea that Mongol will come for Superman in some fashion, it would lead me to believe that these ships were coming to Earth anyway, and that maybe this riot just happened when they were already nearly here.
Maybe.
Or, because if it wasn't the case, if this big ship has been commandeered, although it doesn't look like they're flying it yet, it looks like they're just kind of rummaging through the halls, it would be a bit coincidental, I think, for me to swallow that a Warworld related ship happened to end up at Earth with Superman, right as all this stuff is, being suggested to him at the same time. So my assumption right now is that this was coming here anyway with all these ships, and then these Kryptonians have been trying to fight their way out. So
well, because that's what I was getting at. That if Mongol knows where enslaved Kryptonians are, he would know that's the way to get to Superman, right? Like you're not going to do a frontal attack on Earth and attack it that way. You're going to attack his heritage.
Wait, are you suggesting that they're intentionally firing on these other Kryptonians in Superman's field of vision as a ploy?
Not just as a ploy, that he's... Mongol has tried full frontal assaults on Superman before, right? In continuity, and it never works for him. So what is he going to do? He's going to attack something else. We don't really have the Kandor City anymore for extra Kryptonians.
No, but what I'm asking though is, are you saying that all of this is a ruse for Superman?
No.
Or do you? Because I do think something has went awry in the plan here, whatever it was.
Yes, I do think what you're saying with them having the riot as they were on their way makes a lot of sense. Yeah. I'm saying the reason that there are Kryptonians on that ship is part of the ploy to get Superman.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And it's backfired on Mongol, but it's still going to lead to Superman on Warworld.
Yeah, because this is an interesting idea that some of the people that he's going to save by being on Warworld and rescuing all the prisoners, if some of those are Kryptonian, it adds an extra little layer to the heroic... I mean, he'll save everyone, he's Superman, but it adds a little personal touch to it.
Just in the way that I know that people have said when you add more Kryptonians, it makes Superman less special, and I never really agreed with that, because what makes Superman special was that he was raised by the Kents, and that's what it does it. Not just that he's the last Kryptonian, is that he's a Kryptonian by heritage, but a Kent by the way that he was raised, and they raised him properly, and this is how we get Superman. So the fact that there might be other Kryptonians, because they kind of done this before. That's where the Daxamites come from. Is the whole idea that the Kryptonians at one point were spacefaring and colonizing, and Daxam was once a colony of Krypton. So just the idea that there's other types of Kryptonians out there, and of course Mongol would be collecting others as slaves and whatnot, and these ones happen to be Kryptonian. It might be that, or it might be he went out knowing where there's other Kryptonians as a ploy to get to Superman. And it backfired. I mean, who knows? But I do like how, again, that Johnson's almost taking this, there's a fantasy aspect to it, but there's also, he's smashing it together with sci-fi here. Because just the way that prayer is written out, it seems like something from, I said it when we talked about Superman, the Superman book, it feels very John Carter of Mars, which is that kind of fantasy, sci-fi, proto superhero book kind of deal. So I love it. It's a good fresh look for Superman, and it's really not like, outside of Mongol and what I said about Cyborg Superman early on, it's really not playing with Superman like continuity. Like, this isn't a Lex thing. This isn't Brainiac, or so far, or anything. It's all like new and fresh, which I think is kind of what we've been needing for the Superman for a while now.
Yeah, no, I can't argue with that final point. I'm super intrigued. Like, I don't know what I expect, because I think I kind of shoehorned in or honed in on the idea that this was all just kind of an elaborate trap for Superman. But sort of talking about it a bit more and thinking about it a bit more, something has went wrong with whatever the plan was here. Unless it is truly a great ruse where, this is all staged to lure him in. Yeah. But, I mean, I would expect that they'll deal with the action next issue, and then he'll actually try and talk to these two characters. But maybe, these characters have been enslaved for so long, maybe they're going to be hard to trust anyone and maybe go fighting
right.
first.
And maybe they're speaking a dead Kryptonian language because they've been enslaved for that long that, like that's
Possibly.
all they know, right? Because this is also peeling back a super dingy, like, piece of the DC cosmic universe, right? Where you're talking about slavery and, Mongol, usurping his father, by straight up murdering him and stuff. And like, it's very dirty and icky. And I don't, how do you disinfect that? You shine a light on it and this happens to be Superman. That's what we got from Future State.
This is all set up so we can tell, it's effectively Gladiator, but with Superman on an alien gladiatorial combat ring.
Yeah.
And there's so much potential of him freeing everyone and sort of rising and like sort of, because one of my favorite parts of those 2 issues we got in Future State was that sort of like, no, my will not break. When Mongo's like, eventually, I'm going to break you, and then when you actually do see Earth again, you're not going to be the person you were. You're going to be so different that it's not going to be the same. And it's all about the will of Superman and the integrity and the endurance of Superman and sort of being who he is no matter what. So all that is like a super. So the idea that there's these Kryptonians who might be quite savage because they've been in such horrible conditions for so long, this could be kind of the start of that hopeful touch of like him basically gaining their trust eventually. It may take some time. I mean, I don't know where we're going with this right away, but very intrigued. No, the issue was great. I think this issue, and this is not to belittle the last 2 issues of Superman or the last issue of Action. I think this is the first issue of this Kennedy Johnson run that is kind of being what I was expecting after those 2 amazing issues of Future State. This was the one that felt like, this is delivering the promise of an ongoing book that is tying to that and feels like those where the way Batman talks about Superman, the way Superman talks to Lois about himself and John replacing him, all of this feels like it's fitting into that mold and everything I loved about those 2 issues. So this, for me, as far as out of the 4 issues of Kennedy Johnson Superman, although as we now know, he's not actually going to continue Superman. He's only there for a few issues before Taylor takes over. But out of his ongoing run of the Superman books, this is by far my favorite issue of what he's done.
I mean, it's hard to argue with those 4 because I got to pull out the House of L and Future State stuff. But this was really good. Like, I went to Twitter after I read it this week and went, like, it's really, 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 really good. And it just feels good to, because as much as I like the Bendis stuff and I hate to compare it outright, but it has a different vibe, right? Like, this is more instantly to me, like the way that Bendis took over by, the whole Man of Steel thing and reintroducing Jor-El and just taking his big, huge swings. It's nice that Johnson's...
if this hooded figure at the start turns out to be Jor-El, I'm going to be mad.
Yeah, double down on that one. But yeah, or the whole Rogol Zar thing. Like, I appreciate what Bendis was trying to do. This just feels to me more true to the Superman character. I don't know. Just for what he represents and how he's going to do. And we see him, doing his fatherly duties and acting as a husband with Lois and whatnot. And so, yeah, it feels a lot closer to what I expect from Superman. And again, that's not to say I didn't enjoy the Bendis stuff because I enjoyed most of it. But this just feels more of what I
thought Bendis. I mean, we do this every time. We always seem to start talking about the last run whenever we're talking about the current book. So I'm not going to fall into that trap. But no, Kennedy Johnson Superman's looking good. There was a lot of things I liked in Bendis' run, the revealing of his identity in particular. But so I'm going to start telling you off for doing that because you do that every time, Matt.
No, I do because for me that's how it's easier for me to get my thoughts around it. Just because they are constants. Like, I've always read, like, they're books that I've always read up until, almost recently, or like Superman and Flash. So it's easy for me to compare to the stuff that I really like or I didn't like or whatever, And those are both books that it takes me a while to drop and lose interest in, But it's happened. There's been, a couple times or each of them.
It's called the New 52. Yes,
yeah.
That's what it's called. But yeah, no, I love this. I think it felt Superman felt like he had that aura around him of importance of the like what he means to everyone else, and we hear it from multiple places. I think that's what's so smart about this issue, is that we have Batman's opinion on Superman, we have Lois's opinion on Superman, we have John's opinion on Superman, and I mean Lois and Batman both talk directly to Superman himself. John's is kind of separate and talking to his peer, which I think is an interesting distinction, because he is of the new generation. Lois and Bruce are part of Superman's world, they're part of his generation, they're his peers, whereas John is next up. So I do think it's kind of notable that he's not talking directly to Superman about his worries. He's talking to his friend. He's talking to someone he confides in a way different than you do with your parents. So I think all of this builds this idea that this book is very much about Superman. And I know that's just like a weird thing to say. It's Action Comics, of course it's about Superman. But sometimes stories feel like they need to actually make it really about who the main character is, and that it's them that's at the center of it, and it's them that's important. So having everyone be defined in this issue by how they're concerned about him, and I think the fact that Superman himself isn't that concerned like makes us concerned, because he's not taking it seriously enough, or he is not arrogant, because Superman's not arrogant, but more he's not seeing the threat the same way everyone else is.
No, because he's invulnerable, and he never has to take that type of stuff serious. Yet there's something going on with him, that even Batman's concerned. So if Batman's concerned, it's not something to be taken lightly. So
yeah, so really good. Like I say, the art was wonderful. The horror stuff for those first few pages, and then the contrast to the Superman stuff with the bright blues. Sempere. I think Sempere is one of those artists I forget I really like, and then I read another issue with his art, and I'm like, oh wait a minute, Daniel Sempere is really good.
Yeah, I like Sempere a lot too.
And it's not the first time I've said that, where I've read another issue by his. It's been a little while, which is why I've forgotten. But I've definitely said that before, where I'm surprised when I look at his art again and go, oh yeah, that's right, this guy's really good.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that he's kind of following up Janin and not really losing the step, with the world stuff from the design of Mongol, and it, those are big shoes to follow up. And I think Sempere doesn't stumble at all. Especially like that, how like you're talking about the contrast in the Mongol stuff, and then you turn the page and it's this bright blue, with Superman doing, the almost the danger room kind of test to test out his powers, to what the library looks like in the fortress. Those are all vastly different, and he nails all of them.
Yeah. All right, what are you giving Action Comics?
I'm giving this one a 9.
What a shock.
Yeah.
I'm going to give it an 8.5. I think I'm there. So Action and Detective both doing good things for me this week. Robin, issue 1. Joshua Williamson writing with Gleb Melnikov on there. I said his name right. So
there you go.
This is obviously the tournament book where he's going off to the tournament of Lazarus.
The League of Lazarus.
Yes. But it's the tournament of Lazarus.
Tournament of Lazarus. Yeah. League of Lazarus tournament. And after watching Mortal Kombat last weekend and just seeing this type of stuff.
It's very Mortal Kombat, this.
Yeah, down to the way this ends. It's very...
well,
so yeah.
It was actually reminding me more of the original movie at one point, because he's actually waiting for a boat, and then the boat takes him to the island. I was like, this is way more Mortal Kombat 1995. Also a little bit Enter the Dragon, which I guess is actually kind of the inspiration that Mortal Kombat took. So I guess definitely. Enter the Dragon's a better comparison. But
also, and I'm getting Immortal Iron Fist vibes. With the different groups having champions that are fighting for them, and
So the first couple of pages is kind of like a history, or the first page is a history of who Damian is, and then there's a nice page that just to establish that Batman's looking for Damian, and I love the status of the Bat family right now, because Batman's like, hey, everyone report in, and like Nightwing's like, nah, nothing at Titan's Tower or Bloodhaven. Tim's like, Arkham Asylum's clear. The Batgirls are like, nope, his place is, all of his animals are fed and well taken care of, but he's gone. And then Oracle at the end, it was just a nice little line of like, I like this. I like this established Bat family and where they all are in the world right now. This is good.
Feels very nice.
It feels very nice. I haven't felt this way since before the New 52 in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, so Bruce is concerned and talks about how, Damian wants to be Batman, but he kind of glosses over the time it took for me to become Batman. I think Babs puts it as, he thinks, you spent years training to become a superhero overnight. The irony of that statement, which is, it wasn't overnight. There was years of this traveling and training and all the rest of it.
Yeah, it's that old saying, like with bands, is that you work hard for 15 years to become an overnight sensation.
Yeah.
Same vibe.
So Damien's in just a regular cage fight. It's a qualifying match almost to go to the tournament.
Against King Snake.
Yeah.
Which I didn't realize King Snake is Bane's dad.
I didn't know that either. I've learned something today. Well, this is Williamson flexing, because he's done his research and he's flexing his writing muscles. He's like, look at this, look at what I know. You don't know anything, you bunch of marks.
Not only that, do you know where King Snake first debuted?
I don't actually. Where did he first?
Robin #2 from 1991. So
okay. This is beyond flexing. This is he's doing the whole Hulk Hogan routine at this point in the ring.
He just ripped his shirt off. Hey, you know what? This is the type of stuff I read comics for, and I'm a continuity wonk. So the fact if you're gonna play with that type of stuff, because again, I was like, King Snake's familiar, and I'm sure I've read him in books before. I mean, he's a dude with a martial artist with a snake tattooed on his chest. Of course, he stands out, but like him just adding the stuff in here, and then him talking about, it gets revealed later in the book. He's, that was Bane's dad, so it had extra meaning.
Yeah, so it's like, Damien might have targeted this guy especially because of what happened to Alfred. But the fact that this is also a cool reference to the very, second issue of Robin from back in the day is a really neat touch. So yeah, they have a fight, of course. Damien knees the bastard right in the face.
That's a V-trigger. That ain't just a knee. He lined it up.
It's I don't know. No, I would say it's more of a Daniel Bryan flying knee because of where the other leg is. I would say.
The Kenta flying knee, I guess. Yeah, that's true.
So he cracks him right in the face. The art's very good, by the way. Melnikov is doing good things here. I think the white background when it's just playing with the black and red of his outfit is a really nice, simple touch. Honestly, him imitating the manga page when Damien's reading this book. Which, honestly, the flow of this page threw me off a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I read it wrong, because I went down to the panel beneath. This is why they always tell you that doing the vertical panel on the right side of the page is more difficult to pull off. Wow.
I didn't even think about to read it backwards. That's why it doesn't make sense. I thought it just didn't make sense because I don't know manga. I read this page like 4 times. And I was like, okay, there's some question about.
I didn't get it first either. But do you know what? Here's the thing: not everyone who reads comics reads manga, so I didn't immediately go, I want to read this backwards because manga reads the other way around.
Oh man, this is hilarious. I mean, the sentiment still is there that why he's connecting to this.
Yes.
It's about a painter whose parents told him that he has to follow a plan if he wants to be the best painter, and then. Yeah.
I love Damien having, in his head ghost style. And I know we kind of did this with Bruce already, but I think Damien feels the most responsible because he was there. And I feel like he's the kid.
Kind of the reason.
Yeah.
So he has a lot of guilt walking around.
He has a lot of guilt. I love the idea that it never shows you his face properly. You see, bottom of a mouth. You see, it's a bit more mystical the way it's kind of presented. Yeah. And it's Alfred that says, "Hey, did you go after him because he's Ben's father? Was this like a revenge thing?" And Damien plays it off as, "No, he was just next in line. There's nothing to it."
Yeah.
But I think this is a nice little mechanic to play with Damien because Damien's a character who maybe needs the guilt trip in his ear a bit more.
Yeah.
Not because of what happened to Alfred, just because he's such an arrogant little shit.
Right. He needs to. That's the only way that he's going to process it if it comes from somewhere else, because he's not going to actually have it come from within. That he almost needs someone telling him why he's such a little shit. And
there's so much atmosphere here because when the mysterious figure comes and gives him his token to say that he's in the tournament, you get that creaky night at the docks. Small town. There's a old ship over yonder kind of thing. But he doesn't bother paying attention to the rules. He just kind of smirks, says, "Whose rules?" as if he's that much of a badass. He gives all of his prize money to this family who's like struggling and homeless, and they're all happy. So it's like, as much as he's a little dick,
yeah,
no pun intended.
No, because he's not.
Yeah,
he's closer to a little Jason.
Yeah, as much as he's a little dick, he does have a heart, and that's nice. But yeah, that ship ride was very, Skull Island. We have to get through the storm barrier to get to the mysterious island where everything is.
Yeah.
Very much that. We have a bunch of C-list and D-list villains who are on the ship. Yeah.
I don't know who most of these are, but I recognize the names that they had to fight. And it also is good that it's again, talk about Williamson flexing, is these aren't the typical ones that you would think, right? Bronze Tiger's not here because you can't have him in a tournament where he might die. Right, because he's a pretty or Richard Dragon.
It's Suicide Squad rules. They have to be expendable. Now there is a couple unknown faces. Rose is there, of course, and she actually is like the sensible one who says, "Hey, Damien, what are you doing here? Like you don't know what this is." But I also noticed the Raptor kicking around. Was it, unless I'm mistaken? No,
is it?
Next, hold on. I'm sure Raptor. Is that a raptor?
Where? Which page?
So when she says "I am Mother Soul," the panel underneath that, and they're all looking sideways.
You are. That is him.
Yeah.
I completely looked over him because I'm looking at not Catman with the red eyes. That's where my eyes go first. There's Raptor. There's the two twins who I recognize their masks, but I can't. They're directly under him.
Yeah.
Then let's say Connor Hawk. The other.
You've got Deathstroke, who calls himself Respawn.
Yeah, which I'm sure his power, he's going to be kind of, is it Kid Eternity? I'm sure when he dies, he respawns as someone else.
I like having Rose here, which I think we even suggested when we were saying who could be at the tournament. I think is a great idea because it gives us a character, like another character who we can root for and I assume is going to become something of an ally as this goes on. Now, admittedly, we do have to address that. So immediately, Damien, being the little shit that he is, interrupts, Mother Soul, the leader of this whole tournament, right? She's the one announcing, but opening ceremony, we're going to have a feast, which again is very old, Mortal Kombat and Enter the Dragon. But Damien's like, nah, why don't we start now? He takes off his cape. I'm here to fight. Let's fight. I am Robin. I'm son of the Bat, heir to the demon. Blah 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 blah. He does his whole speech, and so that's the other, villain who I assume is new. Flatline shows up. And I don't like
she's one of the new ones.
I like his comeback though. He says, "Oh, about like the one you're about to have." That's a good comeback. That's a good comeback. However, they start fighting. It's going back and forth, and I love that he goes for the knee, the same knee that he won the fight earlier on with. He goes for the knee, and she blocks it with her knee, which again is very much Kenny going for the V trigger and someone catching it, right? It's that moment, and he's like, "Wait, what?" And then we get one little tease with it. On Lazarus Island, the fights are to the death. And the final page, she's holding his heart, and there's a hole in Damien's chest.
Fatality.
It's a fatality. So obviously, we're not. Damien's going to be back somehow next issue.
Guys, it's the League of Lazarus. Nobody actually dies on this island.
However,
you just lose.
Do they have an explanation though for why he's not going to have the Jason Bloodlust?
Because I'm getting. Here's my thing: is on the League of Lazarus, because they're in this realm, it affects different, right? It's whatever Mother Soul is doing, right? Because the whole idea of them coming out of the Lazarus pit crazy is that the whole process of coming back to life breaks your brain, and you basically have to relearn. And so, all over the course of years, even Ra's al Ghul hasn't mastered it, So I always like to undergo. However, on this island, maybe where the Lazarus pits originate from, or the magic, or whatever.
So the question I would have then is, next issue, are they officially just going to pick up his body and throw him in because this was not an official fight? Therefore, we'll just resurrect him. He's learned his lesson, and then he's in for the tournament proper. Or is like Rose say going to intentionally have to sneak his body to a pit and wake him back up?
Maybe because, and I feel like Connor Hawk, you want an antagonistic relationship with him, But the fact that someone mentions to Connor he's your biggest threat here, I almost feel like he has something to prove. So
maybe he'll help like, bring him back because he wants to prove it. Yeah.
He's. I don't watch Dragon Ball Z, but I believe that's called Goku rules, where you want to beat someone at their highest potential.
Well, I mean, if you go back to wrestling, Ric Flair, if you want to be the man, you got to beat the man.
Beat the man, right? Exactly. So
that said, though, given the Flatline just won, I feel like she's now the one to beat. But whatever.
Right, but again, it wasn't an actual fight. It was a pre-match. This is a dark match that's never to be aired. So, damn, I'm trying to find those other two characters.
The twins, yeah.
Yeah, and I can't find them, but they look so familiar. So yeah.
Yes. So obviously he's coming back. I mean, if I was to put a guess on it, I would say that they're just going to say, well, throw him in the pit immediately. Officially, there's no sneakiness. We're just going to bring him back immediately. And he's learned his lesson because he just got his heart ripped out. And he looked at his own heart as he died. It's a hell of an ending.
That's why she's called Fire. I got to that pit. I was not expecting that.
Yeah.
Right? I was not expecting Damien to die in the back. So this makes him the second Robin to die. Well, if he can't, Stephanie. That wasn't an actual death, though.
Yeah, technically third.
Yeah, technically.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we really count this, though, to be honest, because given the fact that it'll be back the very next issue, I don't think we're going to have a lasting impression of death. I do think the final page is great, and it really does make it feel like Mortal Kombat, and I had a lot of fun with this. I think this was exactly this sort of silly Damien being a little shit and, like, being, basically eating his own words that I wanted it to be. And it's part of why Damien's such a fun character. And having Rose there as well, I think it's a great choice. This was great. I mean, admittedly, I remember saying, is there any reason why that previous thing couldn't have been issue 1 instead of...
This feels like its own thing, though. This feels like that does feel like a prelude.
Yeah.
But the tone's almost different than that. Like, that is definitely a 0 issue, not an issue 1.
I think
after reading this.
Yeah, I think in a way what separates it is that the backups and stuff were in a bat book, and it was taken a bit more seriously with Tally and all that. I think now that Damien's actually taking the reins as the main character, his humor and his heart and all the things that come with his character feel that they're at center stage. So
definitely.
So yeah.
That's cool. It's gonna drive me nuts till I find these guys.
And the art's really good. Melnikov, I think, I wasn't sure what to expect exactly. I've seen seen the work before, of course, but
yeah.
I think the fighting looks really good. I love that the move that he uses to win at the start is used again at the end, and it gets blocked because immediately. I know we keep comparing it to wrestling as a joke, almost because we don't annoys Connor, even though Connor's not here. But I actually do think it's a really good comparison to wrestling, because that's how they tell stories in wrestling. You have someone block someone's finisher, and it's like, oh, wait a minute, they've got something up their sleeve.
As long as you're not spamming the finish, right? NXT style.
Oh, of course.
Suddenly they don't mean anything. And like, if I have to see Adam Cole do Panama Sunrise one more damn time, I'm going to lose it.
This is how Matt makes things last too long, is that I can make a comparison, and he takes that as an opportunity to give an opinion on something that's not related to anything.
I love Adam Cole. Don't get me wrong, but Panama Sunrise is a garbage move.
Yeah, his girlfriend's better.
100%. And I love Adam Cole, but like, for Baker DMD, come on now. She's starting to rival. Like, she's making a push.
She is making a push.
It's like her and Sasha Banks right now. Like,
yes, but she has the advantage because the company she's in actually does smart booking. So
they actually care about her character development, not just Sasha caring about her character development.
Yes, Sasha never won a match at WrestleMania, despite, and it feels like it wasn't intentional. It's just that every time they've got bad plans for her. I don't know. It's weird. Anyway,
and that match was fantastic. Anyways, yeah. So no, definitely, this is. I can't wait to read more.
Yes,
it's like Williamson, when he's really inspired, he's one of my favorite writers, hands down. It's like all of Nailbiter, about 70% of the Flash, I really, really love. But yeah, like this has automatically jumped to, just this one issue has jumped him to the top of my list when it comes to DC stuff.
I think he's getting better. I think it's a lot of stuff I liked in the Flash, although it obviously did go downhill. But even when it was at its best, it still it had rough edges a lot of the time, and that was just kind of expected. I think his Batman Superman stuff, once it got out of crossover territory, felt better than his Flash stuff did typically. And I think this again feels so confident and it's so focused and refined that I think this might end up being his best book at DC once we've had enough of it to really make that opinion. And then that hopefully just means that next time it's even better. Then, every time he gets a new character, new run, new family of things to do, hopefully that just keeps going. And given that they're positioning him and Tynion as being like two of the the main kind of writers who
voices going forward,
orchestrating the events and stuff like that and whatnot, that's cool. So what are you giving Robin issue 1?
There's an 8.5.
Am I giving my third book an 8.5? Or am I going to go out on the limb and say that? You know what? I'm going to stretch this to the 9. I think I'm impressed that this is such a good Robin issue 1 and the action's good. It was witty. It told its story well. The ending was unexpected. It was a great visual, and the fact that this launched right after a new Mortal Kombat movie is just perfect timing.
It is, and it's better than the movie.
And it is better than the movie. Yeah.
That was the biggest thing from last week, is everyone talking about how great it was, and sure, it's fun. That was not a good movie.
It wasn't everyone talking about it. There was a lot of negativity online.
A lot of people were talking about how great it was, and you can't criticize it because it's not trying to be good. However, that's not how criticism works, is that there can be huge story flaws and you can still have a good time. I love the Fast movies. They're not all good, so I get it.
None of them are good, but that's...
Fast 5 is pretty damn great. They pull a bank. They pull a bank vault behind cars. It's pretty good.
I'm not on board. So moving on.
Huh?
Teen Titans Academy issue 2. Tim Sheridan writing with Rafa Sandoval on the art.
Speaking of not good, I couldn't help it.
Is this where my streak ends?
I'll tell you, this is where my streak ends, because look, it's not terrible. However, it's not the tone is just weird for me. It definitely, how we used to say that Lemire wanted to do a Fantastic Four book so much that it led him to do the Terrifics.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Sheridan wants to do an X-Men book so much that it's leading him to do the Titans Academy.
Which I think is perfectly fine as a concept. I was a bit more positive on the first issue than you were.
Yes.
I definitely like this issue less. I definitely found some... I like some of the ideas and some of the stuff that it's trying to do, but there's prominent moments in this book that I didn't like, including the ending cliffhanger, which is amusing to me because the second book in a few months that's going, hey, you're kind of liking this book? Oh, here's Suicide Squad to invade the whole story at the end.
You want something that's going to kill you liking something? Here's Suicide Squad. Not by James Gunn.
Or Tom Taylor.
So that book doesn't even resonate to me as a Suicide Squad book, though, because it's such its own thing. You know what I mean?
It is, but yeah.
It's
called Suicide Squad, so... Yeah,
so there are characters in here I really like. I love Sheridan's take on Cyborg. I feel his Cyborg feels...
Honestly, I actually think, for the most part, I like Cyborg cracking the joke with Beast Boy that him between the legs, because it doesn't matter what shape he takes, that always works. That's kind of funny.
I like that.
But I actually think, for the most part, the new characters that he's trying to build up are actually working for me better in a way, because it's okay, they're completely blank slates. You're giving me this idea that Stitch, who's the ragdoll looking one, doesn't want to be roommates with the other dude, so he's paying the other guy off in another room to try and swap with him because he hates rooming with him.
They're swapping. The other guy doesn't want to go with what's his name? The one here, is it Roundhouse?
Roundhouse, yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't want to room with Roundhouse. He doesn't like him, and so they're trying to swap around. And I like all that. And this mysterious Matt character, who they compared to Connor Kent, which I thought was hilarious. I like his whole vibe and how he does chess to sharpen his mind, and it seems a very villainous thing, but again, that feels like a red herring, right?
It's a red herring. I think we're obviously meant to be thinking maybe he's Red X, but he's probably not.
And then this character of Bolt, she can tap into the Speed Force, but she's, she has those prosthetic legs.
Yeah, spikes or needles, whatever they're called.
Yeah, they're the blades.
Blades, that's it. So
yeah.
no, I think the new characters, it's not a whole run by any means, but because they're completely fresh and we can build them up, it's like, oh, this is the team of young X-Men, adjacent that we can kind of get into. The fact that the story's even the story's even called X Factor, which is just kind of almost all on the nose given everything, because we got a villain called Red X. But the Suicide Squad stuff at the end, to show up to save Bolt from Red X, that was just kind of like, I rolled my eyes like, really, we're invading this book with Suicide Squad? Because I think Man Bat I was enjoying more before the Suicide Squad showed up. I think this is a case where I was still having a lot of problems, but I was liking some stuff, and then it was like, oh, Suicide, so really, we're going to invade the book with more characters? This is not what we need right now. And honestly, everything with Dick in this issue and Corey, I felt it was just muddying the waters for no reason, because before this issue, has there been any indication in ages that Dick and Corey have been an item?
Outside of them having like a mutual respect, like love with each other, like, that's my ex, I'll always have feelings for him, but they're my friend now. Because
I turned the page in this, and she's getting dressed in bed as he's looking out the window as if they've spent the night together, and then immediately within like 2 panels he's like, I need to spend more time in like Bloodhaven and Gotham, and she's like, oh, with Barbara, and I'm like, what? We're doing jealousy,
so
love triangle shit.
In the last 6 months, Dick and Babs got married at the end of the world.
Yes.
Okay? That should have ended any Starfire, Dick Grayson stuff whatsoever. Because while they're not technically married, that was Snyder and Tynan and Williamson. I forget who else wrote on that book.
Yeah.
That was them laying the foundations of, this is Dick and Babs now are fully intertwined, just like Lois and Clark.
And don't get me wrong, things, if you tell a story where for some reason they decide otherwise, whatever, but that was so recent, and there's been nothing to suggest there's been any change of heart. This, to me, feels like the writer of this book, Sheridan, just doing this because he wants to, and it doesn't actually fit with anything else the characters have been through recently at all.
Yeah. So, like, and this is going to sound mean, this feels kind of like fan fiction, right?
A little bit. Yeah.
Like, he's getting to write, because I can tell that Sheridan loves that era of Teen Titans, and maybe even the cartoon, where Teen Titans go. We talked about this last time. And you just get the vibe that those are the versions he wants to go through, but because of what is happening in Gotham with Babs becoming Oracle and her having a relationship with Dick, and I don't mean that as like a romantic relationship, but like she's a full-on secondary character, almost co-headline of Nightwing through 2 issues.
It didn't need this. It feels like it's just adding it for the sake of like wanting to call back to more Titans history. Right,
exactly. And like there's other ways to do that. Like you can have them flirt up and down, but have them getting dressed from the morning and just like, like you said, it's just there because it's part of Titans continuity, and that's the stuff I don't enjoy. Like even the Red X stuff feels so disjointed from the rest of the stuff here, and like Dick, like, oh, I'm just looking for my mask. Have you seen it?
Yeah. Also, I didn't like how he just walks into the computer room and Red X is just there. Like he just like stumbles into him around the building.
However, I did like the action sequence that came out of that when they're chasing him and he grabs the hose, John McClane style, but because he's an acrobat, he manages to spin himself down enough that, Donna's kind of looking at him like, oh, what's going on? So that's the X-Men-y kind of stuff that I do like.
I'll be honest, I feel like Dick shouldn't even be in this book because Nightwing's great. He's got so much going on with that stuff that he feels like he's only here because, he's a main Titan, right? He's part of that team. But honestly, the rest of the Titans need something to do. Dick doesn't.
Yeah, and I know he's like, they could easily make him Roy Harper in this. He doesn't need to be Nightwing. Mr. Roy.
Yeah, or maybe
Mr. Arsenal.
That could happen. Maybe Roy, because we know Roy's around, so maybe he'll come in and swap out. But
but like he's an original Titan that kind of has vibes of Dick Grayson. But yeah, I just that kind of stuff. But then again, I like the stuff with Cyborg and him trying to mentor this Matt kid. And he's playing chess with him in this this whole vibey realm, and
Oh,
talking
technically
about
it
we don't know
wasn't
where it
chess.
comes
It was
from.
like a weird version of chess where some of the
Yeah, but
squares are
I
crossed
didn't remember
off.
the name. Yeah, it's like Chess Plus, you know.
Arima.
Arima. Yeah, there we go.
There you go.
You know, so he's playing that with them, and yeah, the Beast Boy stuff is there, and I like Bolt, and so there's stuff in here that I do like, and I'm gonna check out issue 3. Maybe it just depends on how Suicide Squad pulls in, because I know they're crossing over, and I don't want to have to read. I said that during solicits when they solicited the crossover.
Yeah.
You know,
Um,
so. But
yeah,
this book has a
and
lot
that's
of
true.
problems,
The Suicide Squad
story-wise.
thing, the Suicide Squad thing's not necessarily a surprise because we didn't know there was going to be a crossover of sorts. But I actually impacting the book to the point where it's the whole cliffhanger for issue 2. This did kind of leave a bad taste, and it's a shame because I'm liking the idea of it. You know, try to explore all these new young characters and try to build them up as a team, and I love that stuff. I have to admit though, my desire to read the next issue kind of waned a little bit. And it's one of these things where, you know, last month it was like 1 of 4 books that week. This month it went up to 5 because obviously Robin came out, but Robin was so much better and just a home run in terms of just being a good first issue. And this is the sort of thing as well where if I wasn't getting a good Nightwing book, maybe I'd be more inclined to continue with this just because Nightwing's here. But I've got a fantastic Nightwing book. I've got a Nightwing book that might be the best book DC are putting out right now. So my reasons for this are a little bit lessened, and I do like a lot of the other Titans characters, but it's just a little too rough around the edges and just a little overstuffed, and it really shouldn't be crossing over with another book already. That's the big downer. And there's a tease of like Red X like working with someone to like try and blackmail Bolt. Which, you know, is kind of whatever. I think when I start glossing over story details like that, it kind of means I've checked out a little bit, and it probably means this is where I end my tenure on. I'm sorry.
I am
Academy.
relieved that you feel the same way, because like I know I tend to be a little bit overly critical on stuff like this. However, it is real rough times, you know, and it's a bummer because I want to like this concept, but the story that they've telling out the gate isn't one that I'm enjoying. I
genuinely felt there was more potential in issue 1 than you seemed to when we talked about it, but the problems that were definitely still there seem to have just gotten a little bit worse in issue 2. And the Dick and Corey thing just feels so weird and just so against everything else that's going on with the character, which makes it easier to just go, okay, this is just I'm not considering this canon now. All this is doing is infecting the good stuff that's going on in Nightwing, so I'm not even going to think about this. This is just out of my mind, out of sight.
Right, and like outside of in Robin, that, you know, Dick talking about he's calling from Titan's Tower. You know, like I feel like Nightwing's in its own little corner right now, and as it should be. You know, just let Tom Taylor tell the story he wants to tell. Over there.
I would actually argue the opposite. I would say Nightwing's the one that feels connected to the rest of the Bat books, and the Titan stuff is the one that feels kind of on its own little. It's on its own little corner with Suicide Squad.
Yeah, I don't want Titans Academy infecting Nightwing. You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. That's what I mean. That it's off in its corner.
I get that, but I think the Nightwing from Nightwing does feel like the Nightwing that's like popping up in Batman or popping up in the other Bat books. It feels like he belongs with the rest of the family, whereas this Titans version is the one that's kind of contradicting it a little bit. And even the conversation he has is kind of acknowledging, you know, it's really, you know, there's so much to do in Bloodhaven and Gotham that you know, this Academy stuff, I have to kind of divide my time more. And I'm like, it kind of feels like that as a reader. It feels like this is the afterthought for Dick as opposed to everything else. So
hard to argue with that one, but I'm just glad we have a really good Nightwing book again.
So this, unfortunately, I mean, I'm not going to be super harsh. I'll probably give it like a 6, maybe? 5.5? I'll go 5.5.
Okay, yeah, I had 5.5 in my head. And then when you said 6, I went, I did enjoy the art. I mean, the art's fine. We found this with, that's Rafa Sandoval, right?
Yeah, he's not exceptional. He's a solid kind of workhorse.
Yeah, that's pretty good. So, but yeah, 5.5 for me.
All right. Batman, Superman 17, Gene Luen Yang writing with Ivan Reis on the art. So if you remember last issue, it was the 2 opposing stories from different Earths. One where Superman where there was no Batman, and one where there was a Batman with no Superman. and all the ripples that happen because of that. But they were told in film strips, and at the end, Lois from the one universe, the Superman universe, fell into the Batman universe. And all of this was happening. We got the context for it, which was... yeah, dog. The context for it was that this ship, we find out the name of the villain, which I loved in this, which is Auteur IO, is a robot auteur who like collects all these realities and sort of like presents them in film, and is trying. And this is so funny because obviously we just had the Snyder Cut last month, but this is like, to me, this deranged villain is trying to make the perfect cut of reality. That's essentially what he's trying to do. So we get a little bookend with the real world stuff, as it were, with Batman and Superman, like get into the machine and seeing that this is happening. But they're hearing the voice of the robot when he talks sounds like the narrator, which is, I think, is a nice touch. But most of the story, of course, again, is the fact that these two worlds have now converged, and Superman follows Lois through, and then ultimately we have this kind of like uneasy kind of trust where Batman doesn't trust this Superman doesn't trust Batman. And then very quickly, when they sort of show this villain version of Lois, they're like, hey, Lois is like, that's me. I want an interview. Let's go find her. Yeah. Let's go find out what's going on. And Lex in this world, who's the warden of Arkham, is getting kryptonite from someone on the other Earth. Maybe the other Lex or something.
Or the other Martha Wayne. So we're going to get a Martha scene.
Oh yeah, of course.
Because remember, Bruce was like the dumb playboy.
That's right.
Following his mommy around, and so, maybe. And so we got a clarification on the twins, which I liked. That we got confused when they went to Arkham, and there was two groups, and they said, "Oh, we're doing better than our twins over there."
Mm-hmm.
Come to find out that one was the control group and one was the experiment group, which is very much a Lex Luthor.
Yeah, I'll be honest.
Thing.
I didn't know I wanted Hulk-sized Penguin, but it kind of worked for me.
It does. Oh man, he gets so good at playing with these concepts, like because we loved his work over in New Superman with him like tweaking things, like their version of Batman just worked because just the way that he did them, and how Keenan was so much different than Clark, but you know. There are similarities there.
Yeah, and one of the things he's done here is that he's playing with versions that feel kind of like the Golden Age versions, but obviously remixed a little bit. And I love that when Lois is in the Batplane and Superman's flying towards, he has Dick say, is that a bird? Is that a plane? And then Lois smirks and says, nope. Then you turn the page and she's like, that's Superman. And it's in like the old timey font. Really playing with that kind of art style and the all the little nostalgia pops, but all of this is all the panels are presented as film strips, and occasionally you'll see that they're burning. And the idea is that on the ship where the real Superman and Batman are fighting this villain, like he is burning film because he's erasing things because he thinks that it's not perfect yet. And I love the distortion effects that started to come into play in some of the panels as it was burning. It was a really nice touch. But they agreed to go and try and find this Lois of this Earth. And it leads to this Lex Luthor with a goatee, sicking, Hulk-sized Penguin, which is truly horrific looking because of the big nose.
Joker with many mouths.
Yeah, mouths and his abdomen and his shoulders and his hands. And then I assume that's because he calls him Jones, so I'm assuming that's Croc. Who's...
No. That's Rudy Jones. That's Parasite.
Oh, of course. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. I was thinking this is a croc that instead of becoming a crocodile became like a purple blobby thing. But yeah, Parasite makes sense.
Yep.
So yeah, Hulk-sized Penguin is absolutely just a wonderful visual. I don't know what I never thought I'd want it, but it's pretty good. But of course, the spider lady, Lois, the evil Lois of this Earth, who may not actually be that evil, more sort of anti-hero after the death of everyone else at the Daily Planet.
Yeah, a little bit of Biff from Back to the Future 2 that she turned the Daily Planet that got blown up. Because there wasn't a Superman there to save them, right? Her and Jimmy kind of created this criminal organization, but she turned the Daily Planet into a casino called the Spider's Nest, which just cracked me up.
And there's this little moment where when she sort of clocks Superman, that's one of the moments where the film starts to burn around the panel. It's a really nice little touch. And she says she calls him Superman. She's like heard the name and says, "I had a dream about you." Like after everything. And it kind of shows that some of the reality is supposed. It's like it was split apart. Like they were supposed to all exist together, but they don't because of everything that's happened.
Because in this version, Superman never came because we had the baby in the spaceship that Bruce and Dick talk about seeing, and so how that changes it. But again, there's still a Lois Lane, so where does she play into it if she remembers Superman? So yeah, it's just these differing versions of reality bleeding into each other, which is so fun. Yeah, this is like ultimate meta storytelling. Because
presumably, they're going to merge at the end, if they even exist at all, once all this, everything's done with the main world. But
a Tor.io, that just okay. I'm not gonna lie, Pete. It made me think of you, a filmmaking robot.
It gave me a chuckle. It turns out Superman can actually make a portal because he's basically burning a hole in the film. He burns a hole so they can jump through it. But the Lex really good. He has a kryptonite wristband. Yep. And the end of the issue, whilst everything's going down, is that they're jumping through reality. So Batman and Robin seem to be coming through to the Superman reality. But as this is happening, Auteur.io actually basically plucks the kryptonite wristband out into the real world, and it's like the size of his finger, so it's like a ring finger now. Or a finger ring, I should say, not a ring finger. Yeah, and he puts it on, so obviously, all of a sudden he's got kryptonite, and Superman's getting weak. And it's like, I can take anything from any of my realities. I can just basically take anything out of any of them and use it as a tool. So that's the cliffhanger at the end. Yep. So, still fun. It's still a lot of fun. Yes. It's very pulpy. It's I said last issue that I didn't really need the real world element. It could have just been two alternate realities that were bleeding, but I did like how they sort of incorporated it this issue where this leader of this ship, this Auteur, like that stuff was actually kind of fun and wink wink as well on its own, on top of everything else. But yeah, so he's basically Zack Snyder trying to bastardize the DCU. That's why I'm taking this as. Sure.
Again, we're gonna get a Martha moment. We have to. Like Yang's, just that type, I feel. I mean, this is the guy that did Superman Smashes the Klan. Well, he's not afraid of broaching,
here's the thing,
different subjects.
The Martha moment potentially in this will actually make more sense because Superman didn't exist on Batman's world for Batman to, investigate him. When he actually finds out that his adopted mother's named Martha, it will actually be a surprise. They won't know who each other's mothers are called.
Right.
So it will actually make a little bit more sense that they both share a little moment of, oh, hey, our mums have got the same names. It may actually be quite a sweet little moment.
More than likely.
I bet now they're going to Superman's world. I bet he meets Martha Kent. That'll be what happens. He's going to meet Martha, and he's going to have like a little moment when he meets her. That's my prediction. I don't know. But yeah, the art's fun again. I mean, honestly, it's Reis, so obviously it's going to be strong. But he's really
the classic works very, very well. Like his Lois feels like the Lois from back in the 30s and 40s.
Yeah, I was going to say the hairstyle, particularly on Lois, they're really intentionally going for that era. Which is nice, but it still feels like modern comic book art though, which is the touch that it needs. So
same with his Batman and Robin. They both feel like 50s era, just where they're very, very bright in a dark setting. And everything works.
Yeah, Batman immediately assumes Superman has a jetpack or something. He's like, oh, no jetpack. How's he doing this? It's really annoying him. He's like, how's this happening? What's going on? So now more fun stuff, really pulpy. What are you giving Batman Superman 17?
I'm gonna give this one an 8.
I'm happy to give it the 8 as well. We've had very similar scores throughout the episode, but
that's weird.
It's because they're mostly just really good, though. Is the thing?
This was a good week for comics for sure.
Yeah. I think DC really have a quality over quantity thing going right now, which is not a bad approach to things.
I look forward to 2 weeks. It'd definitely back up to quantity.
Oh, sure, yeah. We're getting there, but at least if we're liking the books, we're liking the books, and that's good. So, okay. Part of the show then we're on to is where we pick our favorites of the week, favorite panel/moment, cover art, and rank the books. Well, top 5, which in this case is all 5. So, what is your panel/moment of the week?
Panel slash moment's going to be from. Do I want to do Superman or action, or do I want something from Robin?
Hmm.
Let me go back through. If you have one, you can drop yours. But
I'm conflicted because I could go with Batman finding the body and detective. I could go with the heads coming out of the bag in action. I think it's a great moment. Robin has a couple of things I could pick. Like, I love him on the docks talking to Alfred, but I also love just the heart being ripped out. It's a really morbid week because everything I've picked almost has like death or like hearts being held in it. But I think if I'm going to pick the one, I'm going to go. I'll go with action. I'll go with the heads and all that introduction of the stranger. I think that's a really effective scene. But I mean, it was really tough between those three moments, to be honest, between those three books.
Yeah, because there's some of the ones you mentioned from Robin too. But I think I'm going to do a Robin moment, but it's going to be Robin and John having their conversation, and then it ends with that sunset with them.
That's not in Robin. That's an action.
No, I know.
Okay.
I'm saying it's a Robin moment, but from Action Comics.
Okay.
I can have my cake and eat it too. You know. That was a very affecting scene for me.
And you have definitely had your cake and ate it too.
I definitely have. Now, it's more pie than cake, but you know,
it was a dumb fat joke, Matt. Okay, don't read into it.
I'm just saying, I don't eat that much cake. I definitely eat a lot of pie, though.
Maybe that's worse. I don't know. So yeah, covers then. Next, you got a cover you want to pick out?
Oh man, I really do like the Robin cover because it's got the red. Yeah, I'll just go with the Robin regular cover. It's got the red on the white and just the different characters laying about like he's defeated them all, and that's completely counter to what we see in the book.
Yeah, no, that's good. That variant for Robin. Who's that assassin? Is that just maybe Talia? I guess maybe Talia. Maybe. Yeah. No, I'm picking that. But yeah. So I'll give a shout out to the variant for action, which has got this really nice.
Yeah, I didn't even see that till now. That would have been it.
Yeah, it's got young John with the cape with Crypto, but Superman's in the back. It's a really nice. So it's one of those beautiful kind of painted covers. I'm going to have to go with the Behermo detective variant though, because I mean that artist is just so good at doing dark and moody stuff, and so Batman just works with it so well. So I'm going to go with that. Art of the week. What you got?
This is the tough one because I really like Gleb and Robin, but Sempere and Mora in Action and Detective.
Yeah, this is the thing. Dan Mora, Daniel Sempere, and Gleb Melnikov, and then to an extent Ivan Reis, you can make an argument for. Like, there's a lot of really solid art this week to pick from.
Yep. I'm gonna go with Action just because I do love Sempere.
I think. Did I praise that the most, or did I praise Robin's the most? It's tough.
I don't know.
I am going to nudge it to Robin, but it's very close. Again, this is a tough choice. Mm-hmm. There's like 3 choices that I could pick, and it's really hard. So we'll go with that. All right, Matt, rank your books.
Number 1 is Action Comics. 2 is Detective. 3 is Robin. 4 is Batman, Superman, and 5 is Teen Titans.
Yeah, number 1 for me, I'm going to go Robin. Then I'll go 2 Action, 3 Detective, 4 Batman, Superman, 5 Teen Titans Academy. And thus retires Teen Titans Academy from the show because Connor wasn't reading it, so
no.
That is it. Be gone. So that's fine because there's going to be more books starting, no doubt.
So since Robin, real quick, I've been trying to find out these characters as we were talking.
Oh yeah, sure.
Just different Google searches. However, when I clicked to look at the variants on Robin that you were talking about, they have all the characters of your Comic Geek, and it was right there the whole time. And I feel dumb, but it was Double Dare, or the 2 twins.
There you go.
That I like from Nightwing back in the day. So
cool.
Yeah, dummy. And in fact, that was Raptor. There you have him listed there. And the weird-headed Batman is the Batman of Japan from the League Club of Heroes. So, yeah.
All right, neat. So I'll tell you what's coming next week then. So Matt's not here next week, but me and Connor will be talking about Batman 108, Swamp Thing issue 3. Not talking about Suicide Squad issue 3, but it is out, as is Crime Syndicate issue 3. Green Lantern issue 2. Very curious to see how that conversation goes, because I don't think Connor has read it yet. So I don't know what he's going to think of it, but
yeah.
You were very positive. I saw a lot of potential, but wasn't as high on it. So at the very least, I'll wrap it. The physical next Batman Second Son issue 2 is out, so we'll be talking about the next 3 digital chapters of that. Man-Bat issue 4 is out, and then we also have Batman Fortnite 0 Point issue 2 and Sensational Wonder Woman issue 3, which is the digital reprints. So a bit of a weird week, but Batman and Swamp Thing, of course, are high on the excitement list.
I don't know if I'm going to get my stuff in by the time, because we're going out of town. By the time you guys record, because I know there's some
we're doing it earlier than usual, so you probably won't have read them all yet.
Just know that the page that Ram V shared from Mike Perkins' art and Swamp Thing that is heavy on the Ivy, just know that would have been my panel or moment of the week. Mind you, there might be stuff in Green Lantern or Batman or even Man-Bat. But just know that
you shameless self-parody.
I can't help it. I love Pamela Isley. Like she's jumping up, and the fact that Ram V seems to like her as much, the fact that she showed up in Swamp Thing and Catwoman, come on, he knows what's up. So, and that cover for Swamp Thing, I'm going to make sure I get to the shop early on Wednesday after some issues of the last couple weeks. I will say this too. I know we're wrapping up, but since they switched to the company that DC goes with, they have not had an issue with getting their books. The last couple weeks I've gone into, Independence and Marvels have been late. So when I show up on Wednesday to pick up my books, it's only been DC stuff. Which is kind of irritating when you're looking for other things. But DC's still killing it. But I need this cover of Swamp Thing, and I need to make sure I get it. There's two Ivies.
I mean, that's the main cover, right?
Yeah.
Okay. What's the variant look like? It's another Ivy cover.
Yeah, it's okay. It's more arty.
Yeah.
It's a cardstock though, so I don't want to shell out the extra buck. But this cover is very nice with all the green, and it needs to be framed.
That's fair. Oh well, there you go. That's what's coming next week. I'll take this time to thank our Patreon producers for the month. And I guess we're actually on May now. But thank you to Tyler Hess, Cindy Palacios, David Sharp, Bordenau, Al Treisman, Christopher Moy, David Brown, and not Stanley. And on Patreon, I do still have one Patreon, but I have Animal Man to get to. I was going to do it this week, but time got the better of me. So expect that next week when I do the episode with Connor. And then the week after that, it'll either be Matt or Connor or both. But at least one of them will be here for the week following next week as well. We'll see. We'll see how that wraps up. But yes, look forward to the next few weeks as we get into more new books launching and the Infinite Frontier saga, if you want to call it that. But that is the show. So I'll say you can support us on Patreon, as obviously those producers do. Patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. You can support us over there for as little as $1 per month. $5 tier specifically, you get early access. You get the show a day early, so go and have a look and see if you're interested. As well as other bonuses for other shows that MailFuzz TV have, which is TV and movie stuff mainly. So go and have a look. Otherwise, you can of course support us simply by hitting the like button and subscribing on YouTube, or rating us on your iTunes or whatever podcast app you use. Give us a 5-star review. All that stuff, really good. You can also, of course, get us on the Twitters at DC Comics Podcast. Ask us questions on there, get updates, that kind of thing. By all means, we encourage it. So that is pretty much the show. That has been episode 251. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep reading DC Comics, and remember to never get lost in the Speed Force.
Hank Henshaw. Hear me now, believe me later.